Hello everyone and welcome to Dirty Laundry. I'm your host, Code Marvelous, and today I'm joined by a repeat guest, Alex White from the United Kingdom.
Hi Dan, it's good to be back.
It's good to have you on, man, and today we're talking about a very special, very new runner. We're talking about Null, the Whistleblower, and we're going to build a deck from scratch today and see what we can do with them. So, when you're looking at this identity, Alex, what's kind of attracting you to the identity?
Well, so the ability in and of itself, once per turn, when you encounter a piece of ice, you may trash a card from your grip, and if you do, that ice has -2 strength for the remainder of the run. So that gets me thinking in a few different directions. Number one, that's kind of the Faust ability inbuilt into the ID, which is sort of a positive and a negative. It's positive in the sense that Faust is extremely powerful, and discarding cards from your hand to gain a benefit has shown itself to be really good, because you often end up with multiples of cards you don't need. It doesn't cost you credit, so it's an ability that's going to help you when you're poor, so that's really nice. The downside, of course, is that this ability doesn't really synergize with Faust, so it pushes us towards not playing Faust, which is a little bit of a problem, because that is one of Anak's best cards. The other thing is, it's just interesting that this is a runner that interacts with all ice. I mean, obviously, if the ice is already 0 or 1 strength or whatever, your ability is not going to really help you. But up to this point, the runners that we interact with ice that we've seen are like Kit and Nero and Quetzal, who all interact with specific types, but Null is just here to help us break ice. And he's in the right faction for that ability as well, because Shaper and Criminal don't need to worry so much about ice strength in the way that Anak do, because Anak have all these powerful breakers that have a fixed strength. So Null is probably going to push us away from Faust and towards playing a normal Anak break suite.
Right. We're talking about some core set Anarch breakers, which makes me very happy. And the other thing that's really neat that I found just in my own very minimal testing with Null is that the biggest problem with the old suite, the reg suite for Anarchs, is that if you lose the ability to farm data sucker tokens, you can be in a bad way. But with Null kind of prevents that lockout. So you're always able to get in and refresh your data suckers if you need to. And then once that happens, the entire engine is turned back on again.
Yeah, I found it to be almost impossible to stop Null from being able to get in, any central with his Breaker Suite combined with his ability. I have played this ability a bit, and I think I was saying to you before, the thing about Null's ability I found is you're not using it all the time, like you maybe are with the Wizard credits or Haley's double installs or whatever, but it always feels very, very relevant when you do use it. It always feels like a swing in your favor.
Right.
So
maybe you're only going to use it 5 times a game, but every turn that you use it, it's going to be very impactful.
Yeah, because you're going to break things that you shouldn't be able to break a lot of the time. You're going to be breaking Turings and Itchies and Gutenbergs in a way that you shouldn't be able to.
Breaking Turings with Yogg feels amazing. Feels great.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, if we're going to talk about Null, where do you think we start? Do we want to start with Influence? Do we want to start with Breaker Suite?
I don't know. This is always the hardest part of the deck building process for me, is that blank slate, and I guess this is why Netrunner DB has this card suggestion feature. But I think we probably, I guess it makes sense to start with the Breaker Suite and see where that kind of takes us.
Well, I feel like we got to do the Corroder.
Yeah, we do. I've tried Morningstar in lots of Anak decks, and I always regret it. So
it's so expensive. Like
it is, and the MU it just has too much going that makes it bad.
Yep. So we're gonna do 2 Corroder, 2 Mimic, 2 Yogg. Feels good.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting that Yogg never with one of the most interesting things is Yogg just kind of dropped off the face of the earth because that one influence and the introduction of Cyberdeck's Virus Suite just made it kind of not worth playing. But Null really turns this breaker back on.
Yeah, he does. He just makes it this incredibly efficient card. Well, efficiency doesn't even come into it really, because it's not breaking things for cheap, it's breaking things for free. So it just switches off code gates a lot of the time. One of the things that I am possibly thinking about already, though, is going down to 1 Yogg and putting an Ottman in the deck. And I know we've talked a little bit about Ottman and Null before, and a big part of the reason for this for me is Lotus Field, because a lot of these Null decks need to play net-ready eyes anyway. So we're already probably going to have to spend influence to do with Lotus Field unless we want to play Force of Nature. But Ottman allows us to put it in on 4, but if we're against decks where that Lotus Field is not likely to show up, we can put Ottman on a different number. So I've actually been very happy with Ottman in that.
Like 6, for example, against NBN.
Yeah, exactly. 7 is quite a good Ottman number against NBN because it breaks Wraparound and Little Engine.
Yeah. So we'll put the Ottman in there. We both talked about that. I think that's a fine include. I think we... how many data suckers do we want? Because if we're talking about a reg suite, Data Sucker is basically part of the suite.
Yes, absolutely true. I mean, I think probably the optimal number of data suckers, as it is in any Anik list, is 2.5, and sadly we can't put 2.5 data suckers in a deck. So maybe go 2 for now, and then when we're pushing up slots at the end, we'll put in 3, or we can go 3 with the possibility that we might need to cut it later.
Okay. Do we? We're bringing parasites, right?
We're maxing out on parasites, I reckon. I think with the full 3. I was talking to Mark Mottram, Kako the Victor, who posted the Netrunner DB winning deck list of the week with his kind of siphoning Null deck, and he said one of the things he loves about Parasite in Null is that you don't get gear check nearly as much because you can immediately kill ice without having to build up those data suckers. So an early Enigma is beaten not just by your Yogg but also by your Parasite, because if you hit an Enigma, you put a Parasite on that Enigma and you run again and destroy it. Central touring is something that he had to deal with a lot, and that's probably less of a problem for us. But again, not having to wait on your parasites.
If people are putting on central turnings, I'm like, that's a really expensive Enigma you've got there.
Yeah, exactly, and it's just going to die. So I love Parasite in Null, and I think hopefully we're going to be able to do a lot of Parasite recursion, depending on whether our influence will let us cope with that.
So I think, do we? So here's the question that I saw, like when we were discussing this on the forums, is, do we do Davids to cover those big ice early?
It makes me really sad, but I think you probably do play one David. It's just that most wanted list pip. Otherwise, I'd be very, very happy to play it. But it's just that pip that holds me back a bit. This, by the way, what we're looking at here is basically every post most wanted list Anik deck, which is playing all the most wanted list cards and just taking the hit. Because they're all so good that we're still going to pay for our Parasites and our Yoggs and our David, but it does hurt.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is.
But Bioken at a Reading Regional last week was playing a Wizard deck, and I think he was spending 4 of his influence normally, and the rest was on, and then he spent 11 most wanted list influence in his Wizard deck. Yeah. That's what Anik does now.
Yeah. So I think are we going to use medium as our dig?
I think so, yes. I think we probably play 2. I used to like 1 in a lot of decks, but nowadays I can find myself itching for it, so I think we probably play 2.
Okay, so that looks pretty good.
So we've still got 7 influence left, which is nice. Yeah, that's quite a solid program suite. One thing that I might be interested in trying to add in at some point is a Nerve Agent, but because that card's actually a little underrated and is obviously very good in a Parasite deck, I think we probably in a Virus deck, I think we probably want to play Grimoire. So, but maybe we'll come back to that. Maybe we'll see how many slots we have. But I'm a big fan of Nerve Agent. I think we probably play 2 Grimoire.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like 2 is the magic number.
Yeah, and then I don't know if we want to push the virus theme a bit more. We're obviously not playing a noise deck, but we might want to play imps or something. But we don't really need to deal with that right now, I don't think. I think right now we probably want to see what our econ's going to look like.
Well, I think we're running reg. We watch your gambles.
Yep, I agree. Now, the question for me is, we could spend some of our influence on some career fairs and really max out our resources. Ice Carver is pretty good in Null because it pushes his ability more. Earthrise Hotel and Daily Casts are both perfectly playable Anik cards. We might not want to spend those wildside influence, in which case, well, I guess we would still be spending influence on Career Fair, but Career Fair, having another target in Ice Carver might make it worth it. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, we can also put liberated accounts in.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of pretty good Career Fair targets.
Yeah. So, if we're going to do Career Fair, I feel like we got to do the full 3, though.
Yeah.
So Career Fair, and then we got to do the dailies. If we're doing Career Fair, we got to do Daily Cast.
And Daily Cast is just a great card.
Right, and it's just free money.
Yep.
Do we want to do Wild Side in this?
The question is Wild Side Chronotype, or we could just play Earthrise Hotel.
Right.
And Earthrise Hotel is less slots. It is a bit better early, but it's not going to be as good if we go insanely late. I'm very, very unsure about which one is better.
Yeah, it's tough, because that also eats up the last little bit of our influence,
Right. So I think we probably want to try Earthrise for now. I think if we were going to play Wildside, we'd probably not bother with the Career Fairs to save ourselves an influence, and then we'd put in a bit more like Burst Econ, so maybe Queen's Gambits and Dirty Laundries. That might be okay anyway, because Dirty Laundry is synergy with Data Sucker, so that's something to consider.
So we mentioned Ice Carver. How many of those do we want to put in this?
It's definitely not 3. It's either 1 or 2.
Well, I guess the idea is how impactful do we think it's going to be?
It's probably more of an econ card than a card that's going to make it possible for us to break a ton of ice we wouldn't have been able to otherwise because of Null's ability. So probably just the 1.
I can get on board with that.
Right, and we'll see how it shakes out during games. And now, are there any other super important resources that we might want to career fair in? Not that I can think of.
Well, let's take a look.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, we could always put a Bagat in this deck.
Yeah, he costs 3.
Be super jerks.
It might be worth playing a one-off to try it. I know Abram, the big boy, is a huge fan of Bagat. And seems to be wanting
it's
to
a
put it in
really impactful card when it works.
Yeah.
Do we want some number of scrubbers?
Maybe. I'm trying to work out if we want Imp or Scrubber. I think we probably want one of the two. And Imp is obviously a bit more of a liability because of Cyberdeck's Virus Suite.
And it incentivizes people to purge more often.
Right.
Which maybe goes against our Data Sucker plan.
That's true. The upside of Imp is it's faster to get going because it can just come down, trash a San. It's already paid us back and it's just going to get better. And it can attack the hand better. So the benefit that Imp has in this meta right now is that we've got exchange of informations and psychographics and stuff. And it's nice to just be able to Imp those away. So I'm really on the fence about
We're also really tight on memory is the other problem.
That's true.
If we do an Imp, which we definitely could do, we might have to include something like a mem strips or something.
Yeah, and that makes me very, very sad.
Does that make you sad?
Yeah, I'm not a big mem strips fan. I don't actually hate Progenitor over mem strips a lot of the time, but and it's an okay Imp target, but I don't think this is a Progenitor deck. So yeah, let's put a couple of Scrubbers in then.
Feels good.
I like Scrubber. Scrubber's always been one of my favorite cards.
I feel like we need some number of these.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's going to be good.
2 or 3.
I think it's 2. I think it's a little clunky. It's not the...
See, that's so antithetical, like anti-mindset to me because like I'm used to, as a noise player, I'm like, I open up a deck list and I'm like, well, let me put 3 Deja Vus in it and see what the rest of the deck is.
It's a bit different because I was about to say the same thing. It's Deja Vu is just bonkers in noise because it's this ridiculous. It's like noise with Deja Vu is like a noise version of Juice's Wild because you've got cash and stuff, so you can just make money or you can kill ice. You can do a mixture. You can get back a medium you dumped earlier, but we don't have cash in the deck, and that makes it completely different.
Right. So we don't have any meat damage protection as of yet.
We don't,
and we also have 4 influence left over.
That's that's a decent helping of influence, actually.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Right. So, what are we missing here? What's this deck? Oh, we probably want some draw. We probably want to put. We know we have Earthrise, but we probably want 3 I've had worse in, which is like sideways meat damage and
sideways Anarch draw.
Yeah, and it has the benefit that it can fuel the null ability and that kind of thing.
Do we want some number of sports cars?
Maybe. I'm not crazy about sports car, but I could definitely see playing 1. Or maybe 2. We make enough money that at some point, if we've clicked to liberated a bunch, sports hoppers, just 3 credits, draw some cards. And, there's a link, but I wouldn't go crazy with it.
Alright, so we've got 3 card slots and 4 influence.
We need to spend that 4 influence on something.
Well, do we want a Net Renny Eyes? Do we want a clone ship?
Oh, yeah, we could probably just... so Clone Ship is now 3 influence, is that right?
Yeah, it's terrible. I remember when my noise deck used to be able to run 3 Clone Ships and 3 cash.
Oh, it was crazy days.
And 3 Parasites. It was glorious.
Post Most Wanted 2 noise. I don't know if no one's figured it out yet or if it just doesn't exist, but I'm not seeing it anywhere. It's an interesting puzzle that hopefully someone will solve.
Yeah, well, the noise thread is just... we're all just like full of sadness and just like madness trying to figure it out because like the deck was still functional after the MWL1, and then MWL2 was just like, so now you get your core engine, and that's literally it.
And then you're already out. Also, Noise doesn't like hard-hitting news or all-seeing eye. Like, all this tag stuff is not great for Noise either, I think. So
right, Noise has never had the slots for any kind of tag avoidance.
No, exactly.
Yeah, so,
right.
But anyway.
So, yeah, I'd put in a chip.
So that gives us one influence. One paltry influence remaining.
So we could put in another David, potentially. We could still put in that other Yogg. Are there any other one influence? We could play an Employee Strike. That card's actually pretty good right now.
That card's really good all the time.
Yeah, I mean, that card's never been terrible, but it's good against CTM, which I like.
Yeah, I've been playing the Val deck that came in 8th at North American Championships, and it's got 2 Employee Strikes, and it just gives people the sads.
Yeah, a timely Employee Strike is a very powerful thing. I think we should probably try one.
Yeah. I remember when that card was spoiled, everybody's like, I don't think that card's going to be that good. I'm like, I don't know. Feels really good to me.
There have been metas, like, if it's HP engineering the future with a decent amount of money anyway, and near-Earth hub, that's when you don't really want your Employee Strikes.
Right, but when people are playing Control on the Message and IG, then it's super impactful. Or my favorite is I started running one of it in my Noise deck back in the day because I'd be like, oh, you're playing Harpsichord? Yeah, I'm going to install Employee Strike and then run Archives and win after milling like 16 cards.
Yep. And that's not supposed to be able to work against Harpsichord, and they get the sad. Yeah, they're like, do you know who I am? Do you know what I'm playing? You're like, nope. 7 points.
7 points, please. Yeah. All right, so we've got 2 more slots to fill.
Right, so the question is, and this often happens to me when I've got 43 cards in a list that's almost done, is do we spend this on fun, weird one-offs? Like I think I talked a bit about. I've mentioned Immolation Script might be okay in this deck if we're trying the ice kill, although it's probably not crazy. Like I said, Nerve Agent also worth looking at, but we could also just put in 2 Dirty Laundries, and that might be the more efficient option.
Yeah, money's good. I hear money is pretty valuable in this game.
Money wins games even more than it used to because of hard-hitting news. Like, getting to that magical 12 credits where hard-hitting news doesn't just
ruin your game. Yeah, and the game is pretty bad.
Like, money is... a lot of the time, I think the best tech cards to play in the game right now are just whatever money you're not already playing.
I mean, that's the old adage that Dan DiArgenio would always give me when I used to play up in Philly. At the meetup, he's always say this deck looks really good, but take out the weird cards and just replace them with money, and you'll win more. Yeah.
He's 100% right. Like, money does win games. Sounds obvious, but the difference between your power when you have like 20 credits and the power when you have 4 against literally every deck is gargantuan.
Yeah, it's unreal. But yeah, I think we've got something that's capable of being tested.
Yeah. I do think Null is an idea absolutely always worth being aware of, because there are some metas, like asset spammy metas, and maybe against something like CI where his ability isn't going to pull a ton of weight. But if these next design or next ice Sandberg decks or something are everywhere, if ice is the way that the Corp is winning games, Null is absolutely worth looking at.
Yeah, but only jerks play Sandberg decks.
Yeah, I was about to say, if some douchebag posts gets Decklist of the week with a Sandberg
deck. Well, I like how even Abram was just like, Sandberg's not that big of a deal. Just like install Polyp early. I'm like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. Like it's a really great card, but it's like Old Glacier. It's a lockout. If you didn't get set up in time, it can lock you out. But if you play carefully, you can play around it.
Yeah, Sandberg is just a reward for doing something. It's not a card that just gives you value. It's a reward for doing something good. I like Sandberg a lot. I think at first I was a bit unsure about it, but then I actually played with it a bunch, and yeah, it's in a good place. But
I love it.
This Null deck might be able to fight Sandberg decks pretty well.
Yeah, well, because we've got Data Sucker. We're gonna have Data Sucker tokens. We're gonna have Ice Carver. Like, we're gonna have a lot of different tools for dealing with big ice.
Exactly.
But yeah, let's see what we can do on Jinteki. We're gonna take it for a spin. Alex, thank you very much for joining me as always.
No problem at all. It's been as fun as ever.
And until we see you all again, always be running.